Today's video is sponsored by myself and my webshop hsMVY.shop. Please go check it out. The new website is now live and we're constantly adding new products to get you a better shopping experience and the best possible tools and materials for your hobby needs. PZY and KitBox have recently come out with a new kit, and this time around they've chosen the Ferrari Daytona SP3. Now, I'm not really sure when and how I'm going to be building this one. There are many different versions, a ton of different colors. You can pretty much do whatever you want exterior wise to this one as you like. So if you have any suggestions, do leave them down in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to see what you guys would think I should do with this one. Now, for instance, I do really like this red in combination with the blue interior, but I'm also open to other suggestions, so do let me know. If you are interested in purchasing one of these kits, I will be leaving a link to in the description down below to the KitBox and PZY Model page on Facebook, and you can contact the administrators on the page there if you're interested in purchasing one for yourself. So do check out those links. This is a pre-production model, one of the earliest samples. It even says it on the box. So I'm just going to go through it. It is missing a decal set that is included in the final kit. So if you're missing that one in this video, don't worry, it is included in that final kit version that you can purchase. Now I will go through the box, show some parts, and then go over them in a bit more detail. There are a ton of decal sheets included in this kit, and like I said during the quick intro, some of them are actually still missing. So the ones that I have included in this one is a couple of metal decals with some of the interior bits, some emblems all around. A lot more of the interior decals for on the steering wheel, the seats, around some of the vents, the gauges, the logos, a couple of caliper stuff and things and stuff, and you know. And then there is a ton of carbon fiber included too. Now these ones I especially love, as on this special car, the SP3, there is a ton of exterior and interior carbon. These are pre-cut, pre-templated, and pretty much ready to go, so that saves a ton of time and makes it a lot easier to apply all of them, which is definitely an added detail and bonus to this kit, as you can buy some aftermarket sets for a lot of kits that require carbon fiber, but those aren't cheap either. So it's really good to see these included, and it really levels up the kit itself. And that's not even all of them. There is a bigger sheet with some of the exterior options. Now, as I mentioned, there is a third sheet, and if I can find it, I will add a photo right here that has some more of the exterior options. Now, in this case, on this sheet, you have some of the stripes, some of the dots, some parts for on the front. All of them are optional to make them your own spec, so to speak. And on that extra additional sheet, there's even more of them. On this one, you also have a couple more bits for the interior, some exterior, a bit of carbon fiber, some striping, and general other details. So as far as decals and additional detailing goes, there's not much missing in this kit, if anything at all. So just like the decal sheet for the interior, you also get some options as far as seatbelts go, some blue, some red, and some black. Now you can also add your own, of course, but it's really nice to see these included in the kit. They are really high quality fabric, and it's more than enough to do the two seats in whatever color you'd like, of course. For the wheels and tires, you just get one set. I don't think there are optional wheels for this car, so it's just the ones that originally came on it. I'm not the biggest fan of the design. I'm not the biggest fan of the design of the entire car, to be very honest. It's a bit too much, and well, that's a matter of personal taste, but these are included in the kit. You got some tires, nice tread pattern, nice decal or detail on the sidewall as well. Of course, the front and the rear, not the same size. The rears are a lot wider, a lot bigger. I believe they are maybe an inch bigger in diameter. They are directional though, so there's one set for the left and one set for the right as well. So do take that into account when building it. I've done this before on a previous build not too long ago where I figured it out after I glued them in place. So make sure to not forget that and take into account which ones go where. And if you mess it up, at least make sure that there's two of the same on the same side. For the brakes, they've included some parts made out of resin that has the wheel hubs included and on them on the back. And also a really nifty thing, they have labeled them. So front rear or front right, geez, I sound like a dumbass. Front right, that is a bit of a bigger one, and then of course there is a rear left, which is a bit smaller. Now there are some additional parts that go on top of this, like the calipers and some photo etch parts to further enhance them, but it's really nice to see them labeled, as these can easily be messed up and put into the incorrect positions. Not only do you get a ton of decals and options, you also get a lot of additional photo etch parts for further detailing and enhancing. There are some for the brakes, some parts for the interior, a couple of meshes, some seatbelt stuff, a couple of license plates to go for, some further details for the interior, and even more and more for a lot more badges and exterior and interior stuff all around. So if photo etch is your kind of jam, then there's more than enough to play with on this kit. For the clear parts, it's the usual stuff. If you know these types of resin kits, then you know what I'm talking about with the usual stuff. These are the ones that I dislike most. Now, it's nothing against the kit manufacturers. I understand why they do it. It's a lot cheaper, a lot easier, and a lot more consistent to do it this way than to make some pre-molded or vacuum formed parts, I think. These are pre-painted and pre-cut, so that makes it a lot easier. This one is a little bit dirty, but keep in mind this is a pre-production kit, so not everything is perfect. In the final versions it will be, so just discard that for what it is. Now these parts, specifically the one on the front, I really dislike, as I think this will be a total B to put in place, as it needs to wrap around a lot of different curves. Maybe I'm over exaggerating and it will be a piece of cake, but speaking from past experience, which doesn't guarantee anything on this build, this is not the easiest one to keep stuck in place, specifically as it needs to be bent around a lot of radiuses at the same time and be held there permanently. Now on the other hand, with the pre-painting, the detailing on the edges is nice and sharp, and the pre-cutting should make it fairly easy to fit in place, and the only thing you have to worry about is not getting glue on the clear parts. Those are not the only clear parts, however. There are some that are cast in resin. Now they are a little bit foggy, at least they are nice and transparent, and with a coat of clear, glossy clear, these will just get a lot more transparent and look the way they should. So don't look at that too heavily. They are a little bit of a matte satin finish and not entirely see-through now, but if you wet them with some clear, they will come transparent as they should be. Now these of course are very complicated shapes and can't be made out of those flat pieces, so therefore they are cast, which I do really like, as I prefer these kind of parts over the flat ones. Something you usually don't get with these multimedia resin kits are chrome plated parts. Now, and with these ones and the previous ones that I've seen and built from PZY Model in the past, they do actually come with them. The plating is really nice and clean and does add a lot to some of the parts that need it. It can easily be stripped off if you don't like it, but it is good to see it be added onto these kits, which in the past hasn't been done to this level that I've seen, or done at all, so you need to paint it yourself. So it's a good thing to see that they are adding this more and more to the parts that actually need it and not overdoing it. So there's actually quite a few parts to go over, and a bit too many if I'm very honest with you, so I'm just going to be skipping a couple of them, a lot of them, otherwise this video would be an hour long. And in general, you should get the idea that there is a ton of detail. So I'm going to be picking and choosing some of these parts to show you guys, but just know there's many many more that won't be shown in the video, but might come along for the ride during the actual build series. To start off, we're going to go with the chassis. Now, this is a Ferrari. This is made for speed, aerodynamics, and all that kind of stuff, so the bottom is flat. Not much detail to show. Some of the aerodynamic bits for the rear will be shown a bit later. On the top side, there is the main interior tub. A lot of the parts are separate, so again, a lot more room for detailing, painting them, and having a crisper finish in the end. Some of those additional pieces are for the rear. This one has a ton of detail and probably a ton of more parts that need to go on top of it, and a ton of carbon fiber, so that will be a lot of fun during the builds itself. There is one for the front too. Again, a lot of pieces still missing, a lot of carbon fiber to be added as seen on those decal sheets, and just a lot of stuff to be done here. For some more intricate pieces on the rear, that goes on top of the diffuser, a lot of fins, a lot of stuff. I believe this is just supposed to be painted black or a metallic black or gray, so not much carbon fiber to be done here. Luckily, that would be absolute hell. There are some side skirts too. These do need to be fully covered in carbon fiber. Nice shapes, and luckily those decals are pre-cut, so they can just be put in place and conformed. A lot of the parts that I will be skipping on the video are many more of these kinds of flaps, add-ons, and additions to all of the bumpers and aerodynamic bits all around. They all look fairly similar, and for most of them I have no clue where they are supposed to go. Quality-wise, all pretty much the same. Nicely cast, all of the details are there, no air bubbles, and just figuring out where they need to go is going to be fun. Let's keep it at that. Nothing wrong with the parts, just a lot of them that look the same, and you'll see them during the build series. Moving on up from the chassis outward to the wheels. These are the calipers for the front and the rear. The rear one is a little bit bigger as it has the additional handbrake on it too. And then there is the front one that is pretty much as big but doesn't have this additional bit here. And that is just the front caliper. And then from there upwards, we're actually going to move upwards, and that is to the engine. Now, it is not a fully detailed engine, but at least most of the parts that are reasonably within vision and sight of view are made. So this is the main tub with some of the engine bits on it. The lower section here obviously isn't there. It would be able to be added, of course, but that would make the kit a lot more expensive. And since you can't see these parts, I think that this amount of detail is more than acceptable. Because if you want to get a little bit of an idea, this is what you have to look through to see the engine. And then this piece slides in from, just give me a second, right there. So that's pretty much all you're ever gonna see, and some more bits will be on top of it. There's another cover going on top of here. So I think this is pretty much more than acceptable, like I mentioned earlier. Do let me know if you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear what you guys think on this. So like I said, not all of the engine parts are included, but the ones that are reasonably visible, let's keep it at that, are made to spec, of course, and really nicely detailed all around. Now, even though a lot of this will not be visible, they still decided to make the entire part. I think this much will be visible pretty much, and the rest isn't, but it is still there, so it does give it a lot more depth and feel to it. Same with these parts. A lot of it will be covered with some of the intakes and stuff like that. And then much of it won't ever be seen again, but it is still good to have that depth and give it a bit more life and fun to the build. Now, in addition to that, there's many more smaller parts like these to add onto the engine to give it even more realism and life. For the exterior, there are also some parts for the lights. This is just the main shell itself, and some additional bits will go in it to give it even more depth and realism, and also to give them different colors and separations between the parts to make it look even more realistic. So for the interior, we have the main interior tub, and then a ton more parts. So we have the door panels. As you can see, a lot of empty spaces and places to add detail and more parts on top of. Same goes for the seats. This is just the main base part for the seat. And then there is a ton of smaller additional bits to go on top of it. So just like the dashboard, there are some pieces that need to go on top here. And the gauge cluster bit is also a separate part, which will need to go something like this, I believe. I'm probably getting this completely wrong, but nonetheless, you get the idea. It needs to go on top of there. Same for the steering column. Then you can add the flappy paddles on top of it. They have a piece right here in resin. They also included it in a photo etch piece to go even thinner. Now I personally prefer this one. It gives it a bit more body to work with, although the photo etch one is probably a bit more realistic and more to scale, as it is a lot thinner. Nonetheless, it will be covered in carbon fiber decals and put into the interior, and I prefer this one, but that might just be a matter of taste and personal building preferences, although again, I'd love to hear what you guys would think about that. Then of course there is the steering wheel as well. This is made out of one piece mostly. Some decals need to be added to it for all of these smaller buttons and even the small screens that are now on these steering wheels. In general, it looks really nice and thin and perfectly to scale, and all of the details seem to have been captured in here really nicely as well. So just to give you an idea, this is the pedal box for the amount of detail that they are going into. This part will probably never ever be seen outside of me showing it you right here and when I assemble it, and once it is fully tucked into the interior, you can't ever reach it, but they added separate pedals for the brake, the gas, and nothing more because it's an automatic, but both of them are there. These are made out of resin, have details in them, and then in the photo etch sheets there's even more pieces to add onto these to make them look even more realistic. Same goes for the center console. It is an additional piece to add on top of the base interior bit to do in carbon fiber or body color or whatever color you want to do it. And making it a separate piece just gives it a lot more depth and detail, and also ease of detailing, making it separate between all of the parts and having it actually be individual pieces. Another bit that I found in the box that is quite interesting is a small piece with some 3D printed bits. Now I believe all of these are for the engine bay, and that they are actual wires to go, wires and hoses to go in the engine bay to give it even more detail. This is a pretty extreme step to go to, but it's really nice to see that they are using the 3D printing to their advantage and creating even more detail at acceptable prices. So with that all being said, it is time to move on to the final two pieces, and that is the body and the roof panel. Now this one is a Targa top, so the roof panel comes separately. You can decide to add it on, glue it in place, add some magnets, or just keep it off and have it in the open position. It is a nice piece. It is a bit thin, so it can easily be bent and warped. On the edges here, it is a bit too much out. On one side it is totally fine, on this side it is a little bit out, so maybe a bit of heat and some gentle bending can fix it, otherwise not a big deal. I do also like it as an open top too, or if I'd like to I can do this in carbon and just glue it in place, and that will probably get rid of that little bit of out of shapeness, so to speak. Not that that's a word, but it does sound funny. Anyway, let's move on to the main body itself. Most of it molded in one piece. Of course, this rear section that I've shown you earlier is a separate part with all of the fins. On the front, it is molded in place, but I believe this is going to be body color, or none of this lower section is going to be body color, but again, not really sure what I'm going to do as far as livery or paint scheme, interior scheme on this one. So again, let me know down in the comments what you would like to see. I'm open to suggestions, as I'm kind of lost on this one, where to go. So as always with these kits from PZY and KitBox, they are to a very, very high standard, as to be expected for the price point they are at, of course. But with resin kits, it's really a hit or a miss, and in this case, PZY and KitBox are doing a really big hit, as everything is nice, crisp, and clean. No real imperfections to be shown. The panel lines are already nice and deep. Could use a little work here and there, but in general they are fairly consistent, fairly nice and deep, and don't really require a lot of attention, if any at all. And a ton of the details, even the small door handles here below, are really nice and crisp. All of these fins, none of them have any imperfections or bubbles in them, and I can just go on and on and on. But as you can probably hear by now, I'm really excited about this kit. The quality is great, and if you're interested in getting one for yourself, do check out the links in the description. Thank you PZY for sending out this kit, and again, the build series will follow. I'm not really sure when. Give me some time. I have some stuff to finish, but it will eventually get built.